Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for June 27th, 2017. It's 6 o'clock. We call the meeting in order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a new minutes taker. Her name is Catherine Agron. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We look forward to a long-established relationship with this, as my minute taking is poor to nil. Okay, meetings come to order. I'd like to take a couple of things out of sequence because we have a number of people that need to leave for reasons. First, I'd like to call on the captain of the fire department. Patrick, would you please give us a report on the fire department?
How's everyone this evening? Happy summer, now that we're officially summer. As of the last report that I gave you, I believe was back in April or May I had come in. Yeah. Right now, as of to date, with our call volume, we're at 283 runs at this point. Our breakdown for that, as John likes me to do, as of 1/1/17 to the present, we have utilized mutual aid from the town of Easthampton 44 times. And how that breaks down is we utilize them as primary transport 12 times. We had 29 intercepts, and as we've discussed before, those intercepts happened during times where we didn't have day coverage. So those were all after 5 or before 8 a.m. that those intercepts needed to be required. Also, 3 mutual aid fire trucks came over from Easthampton. We also used the city of Westfield 9 times. Breaking them down, we utilized them as 5 times for paramedic intercept, 3 primary transports, and 1 for fire. For us, Southampton, we provided mutual aid to other communities 19 times. We went to Easthampton 13 times, Northampton once, we went to Westfield 3 times, Westhampton once, and Montgomery once. Of course, we all remember our large brush fire behind Charlie's house on 4/16/17, where we utilized many different mutual aid companies, including Holyoke, Huntington, Russell, Chester, the DCR, DFS, Montgomery, and Westover as well.
Everyone that was anyone was there.
Everyone was there on that one for sure. So currently our staffing is at 36 active members. That includes not only just firefighters, and also just EMTs, but firefighter paramedics, firefighter EMTs as well. So we're at 36 right now. We're increasing that number. We have 3 more new applications that we're processing at this time, 2 of which are paramedics. As far as our equipment right now, as you know, Engine 3 has been out of service for quite an extended period of time. It had to go out for repair in Attleboro. It had some pump issues. Vicki actually is going to talk about how much that cost a little while, so she can be the bearer of those bad news. What happened was it needed extensive pump repairs, as well as a new foam system was placed into it. The foam system that was currently in it was not working properly. We utilized it. We got it back last Thursday, in fact, and we immediately pumped with it, and it's working wonderfully. So right now, Engine 3 is our primary engine out the door. Engine 4 is in good service. Engine 4 is our secondary piece. Engine 1 is also in service. A1 is primary, A2 is secondary. A2 did have to go out for repairs as well. There was no air conditioning. It wasn't working in the front or the back. So again, Vicki will explain that a little bit better. We did have some new purchases since I talked to you last. Part of the new cancer prevention program that's going on, sponsored by the Chiefs Association and endorsed by mass call volunteers and professional firefighters in Massachusetts. One thing is to not share SCBA masks. So the chief was able to go out and purchase SCBA masks so everybody has their own individual mask. Years ago, it used to be that the masks would be on the truck. You'd get on the truck, you'd put it on, you'd hope it was clean, and go in and do your job. Now it's everybody has their own SCBA mask, and they're responsible for keeping that piece of equipment clean and in working order. We also had fit testing done so that we made sure that each person had the appropriate size mask for their face. And so now that they all have that, it was a good purchase, so that any new member comes in, they get fit tested and get their own mask. As well as a new suction strainer was also purchased. We have strainers that go into either a static water source or a river, and we have a new strainer to put on the hard suction so we can utilize, if we have a non-hydrant area, we can utilize that strainer now, and it works very well. So with that said, training, we did have a Mass Fire Academy training session here, a drafting drill last month that was attended by members of many other different departments in Hampshire and Hampden County came to this training. Thursday night training has been well attended as always. We always have at least 5 to a maximum of 15 members on a Thursday night doing training. We were able to have a house that we trained in for a while over on Coleman Road. We were able to have the guard scouts were nice enough to allow us to utilize training in that environment. So training has been very well attended. And to let you know, as of 7/1/17, we're going to increase our staffing hours. Right now, we currently run paramedic level ambulance from 8 to 5 primarily. We're going to go from 8 to 8, so we're going to go to 12 hours. That's going to take a big cut out of those intercepts that I highlighted earlier, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of our own members taking care of people at the advanced life support level for that time period.
Do you have enough staffing for those extra 3 hours?
Again, we do. We're looking good for July. And again, we're hiring 2 more because going from 9 to 12 is a significant increase for sure. But that will take care of half the time, and that will also appease our friends at the Office of Emergency Medical Services in Boston that we're increasing our staffing and showing a good faith effort to move forward with trying to go at some point in our future to 24/7. So, any questions for me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You're increasing your staffing, which is something this board's been endorsing for some time. But now we're going into the situation of housing of personnel. Right now, we have a fire station that's basically minimally adequate for anyone to stay there for extended periods of time. Do you see or foresee that we're going to need to take and get some kind of a modular unit or something attached to that building? I know we're working towards a public safety complex and or just building a new fire station, but watching the time clock here, I see our personnel are expanding faster than our buildings.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up because we did outgrow that building quite a while ago. And I invite anybody of the public or any of the members who haven't been in there in quite a long time to tour it at some point and to take a look at the area that we're basically staying in during that time frame. It's an area for downtime in between calls. I think that in the future, because we'll have staffing, and of course, if we want to increase that staffing to overnight staffing, where we have people right here to respond from the fire station to anybody's emergency, to decrease that response time from people coming from their houses to back to the station to getting equipment and getting to their house, that's going to be something that we need to discuss in the future. So I think it's a good point to bring up. I think that having a modular would only be very helpful, not only for morale, but for also for, having a more professional atmosphere for the future.
What does the board feel about asking the captain to start researching sort of just a draft of what this might entail?
So are you talking about a modular building, or are you talking about an RV trailer type of?
I don't know for sure. My hope would be something that would be realistically planned out for the next 2 to 3 years until we can get the public safety or the fire station rebuilt.
So probably hook up utilities and all that.
Hook the utilities to the building. I'm thinking more of a sleeping area, more of a, an area where they can have a little meeting instead of pulling fire trucks out and trying to meet in the fire station. not looking at anything huge.
I said modular buildings fall into that chapter 149 construction, so you got to follow that whole process. So that's, if you get into something like that, it goes from this to this.
I think at this point, I'm just asking him to explore,
Yeah,
see where we go.
don't disagree.
I mean, we don't have funding to just simply do something.
Or maybe a pull-up type of unit that's, you know, self-contained. You
Like
don't
at a
have-
construction site, how they have those, like, those
Yeah.
construction
You don't have
things.
to worry about
Right.
tying up utilities, you know.
Right. And I want something we can liquidate if we move forward and redo the buildings and not feel that we spent an awful lot of money on it.
Put a truck on it and get it out.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think looking into it would be a reasonable
What do you think, Rennie?
And if there's anybody out there who wants to donate a travel trailer they're not using, you gotta
You
ask.
want,
John,
you want, you want
Gotta ask, right?
you want a Winnebago showed up? Is that what you're looking for?
40-foot trailer that nobody's using?
Yeah.
It's a donation.
Maybe Aaron Lewis can help us out. He lives pretty close. So anyway, yes, I'd be more than happy to look into that, and I'll research it and report back to the board when I have facts and figures.
Very good. Jim, you want to move forward on the other issue?
Sure, do you have that letter? Did they
I
forward it?
do not have that letter.
Does Ian have it? I have that.
Sir, about 2 weeks ago, this board was notified about action you took to save an individual's life. We read that letter at open time, and we commend you for the service you did for this town and for that individual. We wanted to thank you personally.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I wouldn't be, that man wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for the system, however. I must applaud everybody that was involved as well, including our dispatching, right down to the citizens who performed CPR, to the lieutenant and his officer who arrived on scene prior to our arrival and continued on with life-saving measures. The system worked, and he was able to get early CPR, early defibrillation, and rapid transport to an appropriate medical facility where I hear that he had cardiac catheterization and he was discharged within 48 hours of having his cardiac arrest. So again, I'm part of the puzzle, and so, but I appreciate that. I appreciate your recognition, and everybody does their hard work together. It's a teamwork. It's a team approach.
The letter that we wrote would give you goosebumps. I mean, it was well written, and it described the scene and how the scene was run professionally and very efficiently, and the outcome was great. And we were really happy to hear that. So we wanted to thank you in person again.
I have the letter on file here.
Oh, good.
Can you read it?
I think I could, yeah.
I mean,
Great.
You don't mind going through with it, do you, standing there?
Patrick, you're stuck here.
I'm yours.
It says, Dear Chief Workman and Select Board, I am submitting this letter to acknowledge the outstanding performance I witnessed on May 26, 2017 of paramedic Patrick Eline. His calmness, command presence, efficiency, and expertise undoubtedly saved a man's life after suffering a heart attack. I hope this letter can accurately depict the true essence of what had occurred. On the aforementioned date, the Southampton Fire Department's ambulance and police officers were dispatched to a report of a man having a heart attack. Oftentimes, the nature of these calls are typically symptoms of a heart attack. However, on this particular day, the dispatcher had updated responding personnel that the patient had stopped breathing. The conditions were not optimal. The man had collapsed outside at a construction site in between dugout trenches. It had been raining, which had left about 2 inches of mud on the ground. Officer Grover and I arrived on scene shortly before the arrival of the ambulance and began preparing for the use of the defibrillator and assisting construction crew members who were performing CPR on the man. The patient's face was bluish gray, and agonal breaths were few if that. The patient's fate seemed dismal. The ambulance arrived with paramedic Patrick Eline and EMT Robert Dragon on board. Despite the conditions and evident exigent circumstances, Patrick Eline displayed a reassuring calmness. Recognizing the fragility of the situation and the essence of time, he began providing assisting personnel with clear direction and assignment of tasks while he prepared the use of the ambulance's defibrillator and heart monitor. His efficient use of resources and personnel not only allowed the continued performance of CPR, but reduced the passage of time for the deployment of the defibrillator and intravenous medications. To be able to multitask under the present conditions and possess the ability to provide a wide array of instructions and deploy the use of the defibrillator and intravenous medications is a true testament to Mr. Eline's expertise. Within a few minutes, the patient began displaying signs of recovery. A pulse became present, and the patient began to breathe on his own. After a brief time later, and to my amazement, the patient regained consciousness and began to speak. His life had been saved. I credit this not as a miracle, but rather the outstanding performance of paramedic Patrick Eline, to which I believe he should be commended for.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Well done, Patrick.
Thank you all. I appreciate that.
One more second.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to look at.
Not giving me a dog or something.
It's a horse. Yeah. You were looking at that horse.
There he is. You look great, man. You look familiar. Awesome, man. Awesome. You look great.
I feel good.
Oh,
Yeah, I went and had my stress test today. Everything looked good.
oh, that's great. I'm so glad. So glad. That was a tough day.
I'm assuming that's your family behind you.
Oh, yeah.
He just followed you.
Yeah, you did well.
Oh, yeah.
You got out of there within time, 48 hours is what I had heard. Or did you have to stay a little longer at the
I
hospital?
was only in there a couple of days, and
Yeah?
I was gone.
Excellent. Good. All right, great.
These are my daughters.
All right. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, my baby.
Hi, Amy. Patrick Ealing.
Son Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Son's girlfriend Sarah.
Tom's girlfriend, Sarah.
Daughter Ashley.
Daughter. And?
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
Daughter Caitlin.
Emma.
Excellent.
That's my fiance Brandon.
Hi, how are you? Great. Excellent. Glad to see you.
No, thanks. Yeah. It's all working out well so far.
Okay.
Yep, she was born, what,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? Just at the same time, huh?
it was close. It was real close, just after.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, this is great.
Seems like
this
I've
is
been
very,
working
this
the
is
whole-
very nice for
Yeah.
me. We don't get to see this very often.
Oh, yeah, that's
So we don't get to meet the people that we help, so.
No, it's same here. Yeah, for
Great.
sure.
What do you remember? Do you remember anything?
I don't, I remember talking to you a little bit, but, nah, not much.
All right.
Not
Good.
much.
You weren't floating in my ambulance or something?
No.
Okay.
No. I remember talking to somebody a little bit, but that's about it. I don't remember much.
All right, good, good. Well, I'm glad to see you're alive. That's great.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah, I go by the job site, and, yeah,
There it is, yep. They finally fix it up there and the ditches aren't open anymore?
no, it should be open.
Good, that's great.
I heard I fell right between them.
Yeah, you were right there.
I was close to
That was-
being in it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
I'm sure that's where I was going.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, you should credit your construction folks. too.
I do, every day.
Those
I-
guys really were astounding. So, that's wonderful. And this guy too, you guys like this guy too, because he was amazing.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's all good.
Excellent, excellent.
I would say it just adds, people are very willing to come in here and say how somebody did something bad in one department or the
Yeah,
other. But this trumps that so much. It's great to see everybody in here.
But like you say, you don't normally see it.
Right,
No, I
The
don't
other
get to
way.
see it.
The
Yeah.
other way, you know.
Yeah,
yeah, that's great.
so
Yeah.
we just do our job and move on,
Same here.
On to the next
Same here.
call. So,
Yeah, I'm back to work now, light duty, but,
that's good. You
Okay,
got your Papa shirt, so you're good.
oh, yeah. For sure.
That's excellent.
thanks for coming in, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. I mean, it just means a lot to me too. So, very cool. Excellent.
Thank you guys for doing a good job.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
we appreciate
You're
it.
You
welcome.
said it was after 5, you said, right? It wouldn't have been anybody, so.
Right, yeah.
But, I mean, it was
Exactly
what,
right.
just before lunch or just after lunch?
Yeah, it was
So-
around that time. So we were there. So we were right at the station. I mean, it was quick. It just, the stars were aligned.
Yeah, I know. You're not far, and it
No.
was good.
No, for sure.
Like I said, if I was down in Norwich Lake, I don't think it would have ended so well.
No,
Because there's
No.
no communication there for one.
Right.
No
Right.
phone, no nothing.
no. It just goes to show that advanced life support does its job.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
this community has
Yeah.
really made a commitment, these folks have really made a commitment to move things forward in such a way that we're now going from 9 hours to 12 hours, and like Charlie had said, we're talking about the future, and hopefully, you know, we can be 24/7 for our own community. So it's the
Well, you
system
must
works.
cover other communities other than just Southampton, no? Or is that
No,
what you do?
we're primarily for Southampton, and however, we do provide mutual aid to other communities
Right.
when requested.
Right, well,
So,
yeah.
so, yeah, great. Well, excellent. I'm going to walk this man out if that's all right. Am I all set?
We have some very good people working for us.
Yeah, like I said, you don't often hear the good, you
Yeah.
know, people don't like to come forward, but that's great.
Now I have to shift gears. I am now calling a meeting for the poll hearing under Chapter 166 of General Laws and additional amendments thereof. This is relative to, I believe it's Cheryl Lane? Moose Brook. And Cheryl Lane area, but it's Moose Brook. Basically, it's for some new housing that's going in there. All the abutters have been notified. I had one abutter call me. We did talk. Is there any abutters that are here? Would you like to address the board?
Say something first?
Sure, on just, the poles going in, just going on the, northerly side.
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, Tyler Nelson Arrows with, Eversource in the field engineering. I was the one that ended up going out there, staking it, designing the whole thing. So all we're gonna do is put the 2 poles in, and replace one of the guy wire that's currently the dead end guy. We're gonna move that to be a bisecting guy, that way we can support it, make sure that the lines are supported and reliable. And then just the last pole will not be used yet. We won't be putting that one in until the current homeowner, the landowner, decides to build. But we just want to make sure that we have the permission to do so beforehand.
Have it there. No. Any,
So my name is Maureen Groden. I'm at 8 Cheryl Lane. And so I have 2 questions. One is, the pole that is currently there right at the top of Cheryl Lane, is that the pole that you will be running the wires to the 2 additional poles?
Correct, yeah, it's the one at that corner, it's on the other side actually, where Cheryl Lane's on the northerly side, the other pole's on the southerly side of Moose Brook. We're gonna move from that pole up about, it's 130 feet,
Right.
and we're gonna put one right in that area.
Okay, so you're mentioning 2 poles, so you're not going to do the 3rd one, and nothing's going to happen with the other pole that's actually closer to the new ones, right?
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen to that pole. All we're gonna do is move, like I said before, is just move that guy that's holding it down so it doesn't fall backwards, and we're gonna relocate that guy and anchor to bisect the two lines.
Can you just explain why you're not using the dead-end pole to go up the Moose Brook?
Oh, that's what we're doing. The one that's right there right now at the very last pole, we're just gonna go off of that line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you
that-
mentioned you're going to, it looked
Not-
like on the picture that it's the one that's at the top of Cheryl Lane.
No, I actually have a couple more.
The one that's further up, that's okay.
Yeah, the one that's further
The
up.
only question I had.
Yeah, we just need to have a bisecting street so we can have the distances.
There's been no issue with any of the abutters or
Nope.
anything? The
No.
wires aren't gonna interfere?
Correct, no, we're all set.
I had one abutter call me up, we talked about it, and it's like, okay.
If they're not here, I'm assuming it's no big issue?
Oh.
So you won't have to have a separate hearing then for the 3rd poll, will you?
No, that's what I'm hoping to have right now.
Approval for all 3 of them?
Correct.
Do I hear a motion to approve the permit?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
All right, thank you, I appreciate your time.
We need the town clerk to certify our signature on that.
Places, yeah.
Jim has the paperwork. Can you rustle the town clerk back to us, please? Sure. I'm going to be calling a recess at 6:30 because Mr. Labrie has to sit in a planning board meeting. So there's going to be a 10-minute recess, so.
Oh, do we all? Do they want just you, or do they want everybody?
It says select board.
Okay.
That's,
so-
that's plural to me. But I got,
Start
all the way
start
down.
down here. Yeah.
make sure he really does sign that. Can I talk while you guys are doing that?
Can you tell me, right? It's your turn.
There's no respect in this family. Cook Road update, the land acquisition, the closing is tomorrow. Funds have been transferred properly. The attorneys seem to be on page. Water Department seems to be on page. So they're going to go to the Registry of Deeds to sign and transfer the money tomorrow. Hopefully that'll, at least from the town side of it, be the end of that process. There's still funding that's going to have to be returned in that. There is no town administrator's report, as he is on vacation.
Is he taking those with him? Because we're going to need copies.
Janine has to sign those, and they're going to have to do some paperwork with it. So I just wanted to get it off of our table so it doesn't get lost someplace.
So you're gonna bring it back, Jenny? You're gonna notarize them and bring them back to us?
Is that what you want?
Yes, I'm gonna put them in the packet for
They
Bill.
have to go back to the town administrator. They still need book and page.
Other paperwork to go with this also.
Okay, if you want
Well,
to bring
they-
it all, I'll put it together, if you like.
Why don't you just let her bring it to Velda and be done with it?
I was gonna put this whole packet.
I know.
Whatever you want.
Hey,
Okay, thank you.
Tammy, you think I have any control here? All right, that said, public safety complex, we've had a few responses from people that we sent messages to requesting information about them selling the land to the town. Most of them have been no. There are still a few out there. That said, we're still looking at some other approaches to this. I have another part to this relative to the police station and buying land, but I don't want to get into it if I'm going to call a recess in 2 minutes. So let's put that on hold.
You going to get back to it?
Yeah, I'm going to get back to it tonight.
Okay.
I just, traffic study, I'm going to have to wait until after the recess. Jim, you want to do the recess now and then?
Yeah, I'll just run over there and they should be ready.
All right, I'm calling a recess for the selectmen for 10 minutes until 20 of. Does that work for you? All right, so we're closed for 10. All right, we're reconvening, and we're going to go over the end of the year transfers. Vicki, if you would, please.
Hi. So I'm Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. Pretty much got that. Great, you need to say that when you come up here. So did you guys get my email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I sent this to the Finance Committee because they met last night and Monday, and they did send an email saying that they did recommend and approve these particular transfers. The first one that's on here is for the Sharps program. The Board of Health was kind of waiting to spend some of their expenses because they knew they would need more containers before the end of the year for the Sharps program. And so this is the variance of what she needs to pay for those last containers, and it's going to come out of Board of Health expenses and then the animal inspector salary, because we didn't need all the animal inspector salary because there was a lag in between when we had Nicole Fletcher and the previous person. The next two, Pat Eline alluded to a little bit, was ambulance maintenance and fire truck maintenance. Currently, the ambulance maintenance is $11,194.31 negative. But the fire chief gave me some bills that we needed to pay for other maintenance for the ambulance, which brings it to the $14,206.67. You know, they had to bring the ambulance down to New Jersey in order to get the engines and whatnot repaired and bring it back. I think they brought it back a couple times. And then fire truck maintenance currently was $6,755.98 in the hole, but, you know, as Pat earlier mentioned, the pumper wasn't working, I believe, but I have a new bill for $15,000 for that engine repair for the fire department, which I can't pay until I actually transfer that, you know, transfer that money. And then there was another one for $3,000 for, oh, that was ambulance, sorry. That was in the ambulance number, for A2. So those bills need to be paid by year end, and so that's why we're transferring this money. And the fire chief wanted to take them out of EMT wages. He was kind of holding off on some of that in order to be able to, he knew he was going to have to pay for some of those maintenance costs. Police education incentive is off $1,772.13. When we did the budget for 17, we based it on an estimate before the contract was settled, and some of the police officers got promotions, and with those promotions and with those increases in pay, the education and Quinn bill incentive is based on a percentage of your base salary. And so there wasn't enough based on that new contract that was negotiated partway through this fiscal year, which will come out of his police wages. Which there's a little bit of money in there that will probably cover the overtime in the next range, the next round of these. He had spent money on overtime because some of the, one of the officers was in training, and then he took some time to hire a new officer because he wanted to make sure there was enough money in there. So that money is in the overtime, so there's money in that wage line to transfer in between those. And again, I try to take from their own set of accounts before I take from somebody else. The next is the elementary school. It's not necessarily negative, but the vocation tuition was over budgeted for FY17 because when we budgeted for 17, Smith Vocational used to charge $4,190 per SPED student per year for those charges. Well, subsequently, that's what we budgeted, but then they went to a different formula and they were doing on a per usage basis. So the total bill for SPED for this year was like $27,000. On average, like $2,500 per student. So we have some money left in vocation tuition, but because it plays into our net school spending, we have to spend that in order to meet that net school spending requirement with the state. I need to transfer it to the elementary school to keep that requirement. And I did it this time around, so the school has time to, you know, potentially spend that, you know, in salaries. They can move some money for salaries into that instead of doing school of choice, so they have more money for next year. And then the other one is election expenses. We have some LHS bills for the special override election, which at the time, when we did the first transfers, we weren't anticipating, you know, some of the machines need to get, you know, looked at each time that we do a special election, you know, the feeders and all that's batteries and the ballots and all that we need to pay for. So that's going to come out of election wages, which, you know, has some money in there, partly because when we have extended polling hours, we had money from the state that allows us to charge those extended polling hours to that particular fund instead of to election wages. So there's some money left in that line item. So again, these are what I have for now. The last one I will do with you on July 11th will have salary. If anyone's over in salaries, mainly overtime for police. Fire wages are over, but he's got ambulance and other places to move for that piece. And then one of the other items was winter roads and winter wages, which I'll do at the end because I wanted to make sure, you know, Randall could get what he needed first before we actually transfer that money out. So that will be the last one. And the Finance Committee already approved this yesterday. They didn't have any issues. They knew about most of this ahead of time anyway, in discussions with the two chiefs. And I talked to Mike, about the school and everything, so. And I already talked to the school about that money, particular money. Her and I were in contact before this came up last week about, this is what was going to happen, so they know all about that.
Do I hear a motion to move this money as stated?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Done deal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki.
Vicki? Here's the,
Did you sign those? No?
yeah.
Oh, the top one? Oh, you signed it on the, never mind. I signed this side, never mind. So I'm like, this is-
You sign one side, I sign the other side. Okay, put that aside. I see the Board of Health is wanting to speak to us. They're not on the agenda.
I'll speak anyways. Ben Hogan, 73 Gilbert Road, Board of Health Chair. As you know, Jeff Dugas had to resign from the Board of Health, and to fill his spot until May 18, we'd like to appoint Sharon Hart, 13 Belanger, to the Board of Health until that time is over.
Do you feel that she has the necessary qualifications to sit into
Absolutely.
a seat like that?
Absolutely.
In case you don't know, Sharon Hart works as the health director for South Hadley.
I think I heard that from her husband somewhere.
She works as the health director for South Hadley.
As a resident of town, she can go on the committee.
Maybe she's interested in the capital committee. She is here, but she's not, she's very silent. Sharon, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Sharon Hart. I've been the health director in South Hadley for 13 years now. So, and we just moved into Southampton on 13 Belanger Road, and I think this would be a good opportunity for me.
I think it'd be great. Move goes smoothly?
Pardon?
Did the move go smoothly?
Yes?
Good. Glad to have you in
Yes, I
town.
did.
You need a motion?
I need a motion.
Is the appointment until when, did you say?
May 18th?
May 2018 until the next election.
So I'll make the motion. Should be appointed for the rest of the term.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
I read everything, I'm familiar with this appointment.
All in favor?
Charlie, your car was really hot, so I rolled the windows down for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Welcome aboard. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. We're all back here.
Okay, what did you do? Can you just tell me what you did? I have some notes for Velda I gotta do.
We transferred all the money.
Yeah. Budget transfer,
Okay.
Vicki recommended, and then we just appointed Sharon.
Let me just sign that here. Is that all? Okay.
It was approved by the Finance Committee prior to this meeting.
Okay, and that's it?
Sharon Hart was appointed. That wasn't on the agenda. Ben came up and
That's all put Sharon Hart.
brought it up.
Board of Health, right?
You want to address the council on aging stuff?
Correct.
Just a little quick.
Not sure the spelling on the last one.
I'll find out.
Yep.
No. Oh, very good.
Okay.
You all set? I'm sort of taking things way out of sequence here.
There are other appointments, though, that
Yes.
I know, and they're not sitting,
You need the list? I have the list over here, the
yeah,
master.
I know, I'm just amazed that they're not sitting on the
Yeah.
the agenda.
Do you have them in? Well, how about the actual documents?
These are just appointments that we do. These are not PCS. These are actually the appointments for all these.
Oh, okay.
This is the normal yearly
This is the
turnover.
regular annual, yeah, okay.
Do you have this one, Charlie? If you want this, you can take-
Give me a minute. All right, the next thing the select board's gonna do is review the annual appointments. Jim, it appears you have the copy, so you want,
Who's holding the paperwork, huh? Okay, so you want me to read them all?
please.
Okay, for one-year terms, John Workman, Ambulance Coordinator, Maria Hank, BAPAC. Not sure what that stands for.
BAPAC, Barnes Aquifer Protection Agency.
Okay. John Workman, Civil Defense Deputy Director, Donald Snyder, Emergency Management Director.
Hold, take that one out. We haven't gotten a clear picture from Mr. Snyder.
Okay, so we'll take that out. John Workman, again, Emergency Management Director Assistant. Richard Ferrari, Veterans Grave Officer. Gerald Paquette, Veterans Service Officer. That's the end of the one-year appointments. You want to vote on those?
Mayor, motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next are three-year terms. Charles J. Kinnicky, Agricultural Committee. Randall Kemp, Agricultural Committee. Charles J. Kinnicky, Capital Improvement. Margaret Larson, Capital Improvement. Teague Baker, Conservation Commission. Hold on. Okay. Brittany Guttermuth, Conservation Commission. Marla Hank, Conservation Commission. Linda Brodstad, Cultural Council. Carl Fela, Cultural Council. Carol Goulet, Cultural Council. Marjorie Nato, Cultural Council. Sunia Palante, Cultural Council. Judy Taylor, Cultural Council. Doric Dodds, Historic Commission. Richard Ferrari, Historic Commission. Alicia Noof, Registrar. Joyce Skypeck, Registrar. Nilda Cohen, Zoning Board of Appeals. Shanna Reed, Zoning Board of Appeals. And Geraldine Swanson, Zoning Board of Appeals. End of three-year appointments.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion?
So to be clear, these are often three-year appointments, but they need to be annually reappointed, right?
No, this term, on the 3 years, the term expires June of '20, where the 1 year is expired June of '18. That's why I separated them.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Can I get a copy of that? That was awfully fast.
All right, you want us to
Yeah,
make a
just
copy?
give her a
If
copy.
you don't have it, who can I get it from?
Well, I can give you a
No, we'll
copy.
have it.
The only one struck is ED. EMD.
Yeah, do you want to have somebody make a copy?
Thank you. That's okay.
Let me make sure I get that.
Okay, I guess the next topic is, that's what I was going to bring up.
Okay.
Yeah, Beck, why don't you just take the floor?
So as a liaison to the Council of Aging, I had hoped that there would be a nomination from the Council of Aging for the board position, but we got an email today from Nilda saying that there are a couple of people interested, and so I would like to publicly say that I would like to have a nomination by our next board meeting on July 11th.
My understanding is Council on Aging's meeting tomorrow.
Good. Great.
So,
I go along with that as well.
okay.
I
So
agree.
just put those on hold until the 11th.
Yep.
So are they going to give us a singular person they want to nominate, or are they going to give us multiple?
I think there's 2 seats.
I heard 3 seats.
3 seats
I
available?
thought that's what she said last night. I saw her in passing.
Boy, we're doing good here. She hears 1, I hear 2, you hear 3.
You hear 4, John?
Well, the 2 people were recently appointed,
Right.
Janet and Loisel. Nilda, Dorothy, Treese Mackey. I thought there was only one, but we,
Well, maybe it's 3 people for 1 seat.
I thought there was one also.
yeah, I think it's 3 people for 1
Maybe I
seat is what she
misunderstood.
mentioned in the email.
Yeah, that was in the email.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to hold the police station issue with the land and the traffic study towards the end, because I need to convert the laptop so that we can use the projector. We did the budget. Board of Selectmen policy. Every year, the Board of Selectmen reviews the policies they've adopted for the town for the Board of Selectmen. What we do is we bring it up at a meeting, and then at the following meeting, or 10 days after the fact, we reaffirm it. This is our first meeting on these policies so that we have time to review them. There is only one policy out there that hasn't been approved yet, and that's our driveway policy. And there's a subcommittee on that. I don't know what the status is with them, but given the fact...
I can update that if you would like. We had a joint meeting with the planning board and the ad hoc driveway committee to discuss the appeal process if somebody didn't fit in the criteria laid out in the driveway. And the planning board said that they believe it's the selectmen's jurisdiction, so that's where it'll end up. And while they were there, they looked at it and gave us some pointers where they think we should maybe revisit some areas. So we've got a meeting Thursday of this week to go over the response we got from the planning board. So we're getting close to the end of that.
Good. It would be nice by September to be able to put that thing...
I'm sure it'll be ready by then.
You know. All right, so the other policies we basically review, and then on the 11th, we'll reaffirm most of them, I'm sure.
Are those the policies that were in the packet today?
So these are the ones that, so we're not doing anything other than putting them forward today, and we'll vote on them within a 10-day period.
Right, it's basically to allow us time and the public time to comment and see, in case they see a policy that they think just doesn't work.
Why are you saying a 10-day period? Because it's over 10 days.
It's 10 days is on our policy.
Yeah, our policies, I think we put them forward, and then 10 days, they sit for 10 days, and people can review them.
At least 10 days.
At least 10 days.
Okay,
Yeah.
at least 10 days, my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're not meeting until July 11th.
Next.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and this gives it plenty of time.
Great.
And last year, we did a reaffirming of all this stuff in August, so we're actually pretty much on track right now. Okay. You have the, I'm going to read the warrants just to get them out of here. And I'll give you a copy of that, so don't worry. The warrants that were signed June 22nd, W17-51 for $16,567.52. Warrant P17-52LS, $143,469.42. PD17-52, $73,541.85. P17-52, $276,867.68. Those are the transactions that have occurred basically in the last 2 weeks. Now I guess we'll get into personnel forms, and you guys have them, so... I did. I'll get back to it. Thank you. That's actually an interesting one. Well, while Jim's looking. Got him? Okay.
Who's reading them?
You are. My enunciation is deplorable.
So if this helps you, I already read them all, and all the signatures are there, so if you just want to read the names, you can verify it if you like. All the signatures are there from, there's only one that has a signature from FinCom in the wrong spot, but other than that, everything was good.
Okay, so let's go. PCF, Personal Change Form, John Roach, Auxiliary Police Officer, emergency permanent position, no hourly rate because it's as needed.
No, there's no hourly rate, because it's a job that doesn't pay any money, and once he's certified or approved, then he will have another PCF with a rate. That's what I was told.
Yeah,
Okay, because it says auxiliary,
yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't pay. The position pays nothing.
Yes,
even when he's working?
Yep.
Even when he's
It's-
called in?
Until he's certified,
yep.
then they're going to fill out another PCF.
Okay,
It just leans towards his education.
okay. Board of Health, agent, part-time personal requisition form, replaces former health agent. This is an internal line.
Mm-hmm.
Board voted to hire, okay. Courtney Bordeaux, EMT basic firefighter, change in salary, completed basic firefighting, Hampshire County program. So she's getting an increase of 50 cents per policy. Dean Reel, change in salary, cleared by medical control to work as a paramedic, completed basic firefighter, Hampshire County program. He is getting a $2 increase. Brian Bonnell, paramedic, new hire, paramedic employed as a cardiac surgery physician assistant at Bay State Medical. So new hire at $22.10. David Nalawansky, paramedic firefighter 1 and 2. New hire, $21.12 salary. Fire Department, Steven Rubner, firefighter, new hire, formerly Southampton Fire Department captain for 18 years, salary $20.88. I'll make a motion, we accept them as written.
Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Want to sign those, Charlie, or?
Yeah,
Back and forward here.
I get to sign them. Next thing is the minutes, April 23rd.
Everybody read them?
I'm fine with them.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we accept them as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
No changes or anything?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Would you have her plug in the PowerPoint cord into that laptop?
Want to go back to the movies?
I'm going back to the movies once I get these signed.
Okay.
The movies was a very interesting conversation with the director of the Public Access Channel. Evidently, there's a number of communities that now provide public movies in the park. And I was asked to ask the town if they had an interest in that, maybe doing it at Conant Park. My understanding is Easthampton Community Access would be the ones that would be operating this. I'm assuming this would go through our park commission, but they wanted this to come out there so that people knew that this was being discussed. Any thoughts?
So I'm assuming they're going to put a screen up under the,
Yeah, my
Pavilion?
understanding, they'll put a screen under the pavilion, they have to buy some projection equipment and stuff. Remember, we're not talking the old movie projectors with the 18 millimeter or 35 millimeter, we're talking electronics. It's basically a PowerPoint projector with some speakers and all.
do they need Wi-Fi to do it, or are they just going to be self-contained? and-
I would imagine they would run a DVD or a thumb drive with the movies. They wouldn't do live streaming, I don't think. I can't imagine that happening. So,
Sounds like a neat idea.
I'm going to step out just for a second. I just read Velda's note on the Eversource, return to Janine. You guys were right. So I'll bring that right back.
we didn't want you to get in the middle of that argument with you. There you go. Give that to you.
Sorry about that.
So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. At our farm, every now and then, we'd have what we call movie nights. and in the pavilion, we have a 10-foot screen PowerPoint projector, and we do this, and it's amazing how many times we have boarders and families and friends that would come down to watch a movie. I can't speak exactly as to what Easthampton Cable would be looking at, but the idea was something similar, I imagine. And I don't know how that would integrate with anybody, but does anybody want to take the lead on this thing and follow it up a little further?
I'm assuming it would be family-friendly movie.
Yeah, it better be. It better be, or I'm pulling the plug. You know?
Great idea.
Yeah, good. Do you have a name to contact?
It would be Kathy at ECAD. You wouldn't have her phone number handy, would you?
I do after we're not on TV.
So,
After we're
yeah.
not on TV.
You don't want to put it on live TV? No.
Call Kathy at.
If you can give it to me after?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, you'll take the lead on that one?
Sure.
All right. Actually, I think it's kind of cool,
Yeah,
but
it's like a drive-in come,
a drive-in without
First
the,
century.
without the drive-in. Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit now about land acquisition at the, what we have as the police station. So I'm going to walk over there for a second and throw something on the screen. Police station, land. I'm getting replaced. This is really cool. The yellow square, if you look at where the arrow's pointing, that is actually our police station, and that is our parking area and stuff. To the left is the actual town hall we're in right now. That land in the yellow square used to be what we called the Grange Hall, and it's been abandoned. It's about 2/10 of an acre. Well, one of the discussions about a public safety complex was maybe not doing a public safety complex, but taking the old town hall that's the police station and renovating it into a newer police department. One of the issues with that is the footprint of that property was too small when the original committee did a review. But if we purchase this land, we've also increased that footprint. We've expanded parking area in there, and I believe there's a potential to put in a new septic system if it's needed for the building. Right now, the discussion is about $10,000 to take that land over. The owners are willing to sell to the town. They've openly been discussing this with me. If this board is so inclined, I will pursue this further. I brought a purchase and sale agreement draft and sent it to you guys to look at. Obviously, I'm not going to do anything until after the 4th of July. But take a look at it. And I just want a sort of an endorsement tonight that the board's okay with me moving this thing forward. Thoughts?
So I know there were some people that expressed concern when the land was purchased behind the fire station, and then the discussion changed to a different site for the public safety complex. Is this an advantage for the town regardless of what happens to this police station? Or is this saying that we're going in the direction of renovating the police station, having a separate police and fire renovation project?
This would be a benefit to the town in the sense that it would increase the land footprint near that building. It is a building we're going to have to do something with down the road, any way you look at it. Renovating it as a police station is an option. It may not end up being a police station. Hey, it could end up being a senior center. But the reality of it is, right now, the highway department has a problem with snow removal and having an area to pile snow. I know the building septic system is in question. It just is, it doesn't get enough use to show itself. So I think for this kind of money, I think it's reasonable to look forward. I also realize that the land that we have behind the fire station that we purchased has still been a good option, because that land has passing perk tests and everything else, so whatever happens at the old fire station, or if we build a new fire station, we have an area to put an on-lot septic system. So that was a good investment too. But we haven't ruled out the argument of having just a public safety complex. It may be that we go in the direction of two different buildings, renovating this building as a police station and building a new fire station behind the present fire station. One of the advantages of doing it that way is the fire station would be a smaller footprint, which would be easier for us designing and building up there. Second of all, the fire station building in and of itself doesn't have cells and sally ports and stuff like that. This area is relatively flat and easily worked on. If you were to envision, and I'm just talking out loud here, but if you put an L on that building, okay, into that parking lot, you could put your sally port, cells, stuff like that in there. So there's potential. The other part to this is, and this is all fluid, so please be aware of that, because it's a historic building, it aligns us for money like CPA money, historical grants, stuff of that nature, which wouldn't come out of our tax base. So it might, in the long run, actually be a cheaper solution for us as residents of the town.
And we might be able to get the funding for that piece of land the same way.
We may be able to. I haven't
Yeah.
reached that far into the exploration,
And I think that would be the key.
Yeah.
but again, we're talking about $10,000. We're not talking,
But I think as Renee was saying, there's a low tolerance for spending money for stuff that we don't have a clear use for. But if we can use CPA funding, and if we do nothing with it, it's a little open space, so it all falls into the plan. So
Sure.
with that in mind, I think we should go forward and look more into it. Just a question: who owns the land south of the parking lot on there? It looks like it's wide open.
directly south,
Yeah.
Behind the chief's house.
that's the police chief.
Oh, he owns way back
Owns
there?
all back there?
He owns all the way, well, probably to the end of that, our parking lot.
So way over there.
Yeah.
Okay, although he has short frontage.
He has
goes
short
way
frontage,
back.
and he's got depth. He,
Okay, so let me ask you a question, and, we can ask him. Is that viable for a fire station?
you mean take the police chief's house over?
No, ask him if he would be willing to sell it. We don't take over, no.
I would not recommend, as a friend to him, selling that to the town, because that's his potential area for his leach field and everything else.
But is it viable, and is it worth a question? I mean, we ask everybody, do they want to sell it? I mean, who knows?
I would not believe that that area would be large enough to do that, and I believe that it would devalue his property too substantially to be
Oh, I would,
advantageous for him to do this. We'd be taking his house. at
yeah,
that
he'd
point.
want to have to sell the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's the case.
I haven't approached the police chief to ask him if he wants to give his house to the town.
I don't think he'd want to give it either. I don't blame him.
Who owns to the right of the police station?
That belongs to that house to the right. The property line on the, I don't know if I can do this easily, but the property line that you see, scoot by here. It's my understanding that Chief Goyette owns this fence all the way to here. That's his property.
Okay.
This property here is owned by this property. This is the property line, and the parallel is pretty much up there. It's probably about 15 feet off the side of the building. There isn't a huge chunk of land there to work.
The leach field could have gone there, or a new septic system.
Well, then we go into soil conditions and characteristics. One of the reasons I was looking at this parcel is because there is a brand-new septic system here that supports this house. And it's got a 20-minute per inch perk, and it's got 4 feet of permeable soil. So the drawback is, boy, am I getting into this. The drawback with this is that we had the Grange Hall here, and it was raised, and there's a cellar hole that's filled here. So the natural occurring soil is actually here.
So you're just looking for an okay from the select board to continue
To
looking into
continue.
the
I'm not
process?
asking for the money or anything, I'm just saying, is it okay if I keep moving this forward? Because this actually went a little farther ahead of me than I expected. I didn't expect the property owners to come back and say, yeah, Charlie, yeah, we'd like to do that, we think this will work, and yeah, we'll take, and that seems to be the money that the assessors basically appraise the value at too. and it's all just sort of, so, and I think, personally, I think it benefits the town.
I don't know what the elevation is off top, but could that also be a egress into the parking lot?
Yeah, that could be another access.
Might be a real asset for
Yeah,
emergencies.
you could make that a double access for the police station too. And there's enough land there to do that as well as, you know. And I'm not saying that's where a septic's going. I'm just saying that if I was gonna look at potential for use,
Well, I
those
think-
are the things I'd
I
look
think
at.
this is an opportunity with a small window, so we either take advantage of it or it goes away.
That's right.
So I personally, I'm fine with you going forward, doing more investigating.
You
As
cool?
well, yes.
All right, then I'll just keep moving forward on this, and I'm obviously open to people telling me that this is the right thing or the wrong thing, but, you know. All right. The next thing is the traffic study, which we've been all waiting for. Watch this. Through the miracle of science, I'm getting to enjoy this. Would our representative from Ty and Bond like to take the podium? Yeah, just scroll down.
Yeah, if you don't
So
mind
one-
scrolling down to there, that is perfect. So good evening, my name is Brandy Nelson. I'm an engineer with Ty and Bond. And a couple of months ago, we started working with the principal at Norris School and the highway superintendent, Mr. Kemp, to review and evaluate the situation with the traffic circulation at Norris School. And you guys are all probably far more familiar with it than I am, but the situation currently is that there's two things that are happening. One is that the vehicles, the passenger vehicles that are picking up and dropping off children each day, and the school buses use the same entry point off Pomeroy Meadow Road. And so, you know, they're heading northbound down Pomeroy Meadow Road or southbound, depending on where the buses are coming from. They make the turn into the school where we've got the dashed red and solid yellow line. And then the buses occupy the circle in front of the school. The passenger vehicles queue, and this is the second problem, they queue along Pomeroy Meadow Road. I was out there one day last month, and so I just had my singular experience with it, but there were probably 25 cars queued up as early as an hour before school got out. And I was out there on a nice sunny day, but in the wintertime, when the snow plows chew up some of the road shoulder, there's just really no space for those cars to pull off the road. And a couple of things happen. You get complaints from residents along that road about their driveways being blocked or the sidewalk being blocked. You also get the conflict with people that are still trying to continue up Pomeroy Meadow Road. The traveled lane gets narrowed in there. And so it's really not an ideal circumstance to have people queuing there. Once the school dismissal begins, what the school does is they send personnel out to the corner of the driveway, and they open a gate, and the yellow line goes around the school, around the kindergarten playground. That's a fire lane that was constructed to access the back of the school property. They open the fire lane gate and they direct the cars in off Pomeroy Meadow Road and around to the back of the school. The little hatched area is the pickup zone that the teachers and administrators have identified. And the school has a very complex and elaborate system where they have teachers out in the pickup zone, and they are identifying who is there to pick up which child, and they have queued the children in order of pickup inside the gymnasium, and they are walkie-talkieing back and forth to each other about pickup and shuttling the children out and putting them in the cars. And then the parents or guardians go to Gun Road Extension and they make a left or right turn out onto the road. And there's a sort of a minor problem there. There was some additional parking added on Gun Road extension that's head in, and it encroaches on that driveway, and so it really restricts the ability of a driver in your standard passenger car to see left and right because there's so much parking there. So those were the three primary areas that were identified by both the principal and Mr. Kemp regarding the issue with the circulation. So what we did was we talked with the chief, Chief Goyette, about what support he can provide, and my understanding is he has a fairly small staff of folks that are available. They do have one officer that does try to be present during drop-off and pickup, and just his physical presence there seems to bring the traffic speed down a little bit, which helps. The other thing that's been done is the town and Mr. Kemp, you've installed one dynamic speed sign, and we would say that that is actually very helpful. It helps identify those drivers that are going too fast. It gives them some immediate feedback on their traveled speed, and it's sort of there as a tool to encourage them to correct their own behavior in the absence of more traffic enforcement by your police department. So it sounds like the town has done what they can to manage it with the resources that you have, but there still continues to be this queuing problem. One mother that I talked to in our office, several of my coworkers have kids at the school, and so they're experiencing this situation on a daily basis. Said she's seen cars queued up down to the post office. So that's extraordinary, and maybe that's on a day when there's an event after school and there's more people, but that's not something you want to see on that road. So that's our existing situation. What we did was we looked at 4 or 5 different alternatives, and we met with Mr. Kemp and we spoke with Chief Goyette and also with the principal. And that is not the one that we want to have. You guys must have received the early draft. So let me pass out the hard copy. I'm sorry. We're gonna go
There's more on there.
All right, so we can talk about that one. So this is I'm going to talk about them in reverse. And do you want to scroll down?
No, sure.
So I'll just refer you to the paper copies that I provided you. And we can use what's on the screen as a guide, but essentially what we're recommending is to separate the passenger vehicle traffic from the bus traffic. And what we would recommend is to add an additional driveway entrance at the south end of the school property. So that'd be a new entrance off Pomeroy Road. The benefit to that is that you create a separation space between the cars and the buses. The buses can pull in and either queue under alternative 1, we're saying that the buses would still queue in the circle in front of the school and drop off and pick up there. The passenger cars would be allowed to pull off Pomeroy Meadow Road and queue on the new driveway. So we think there's about enough space there for about 20 to 25 vehicles to queue. That seems to be about an average number that's currently queuing on Pomeroy Meadow Road. And so it would reduce the amount of vehicles that are queued on Pomeroy Meadow Road. And then the pickup pattern would be the same. The children that ride the bus will go out the front of the school and get on the bus, and the school would still employ their elaborate parent pickup procedure at the back of the school. We'd also recommend removing 2 to 3 spaces of parking on Gun Road Extension immediately adjacent to the driveway. Those, say, 4 to 6 spaces could be made up further further east on the on Gun Road Extension, but it would give better sight lines for your vehicles that are exiting onto Gun Road Extension. In addition, the school has indicated that they could use a little bit more parking space, and if we make the new entranceway one way, we could do angled parking spaces that are directionally pointing more to the northeast, and that keeps people from going out the wrong way. That's essentially a way to force them in the one-way direction, but we could get 12 to 15 additional parking spaces in there. We did,
So they would have to come going into the parking lot, they'd have to come down here and go up that way also?
so yeah, what we're thinking is that there'd be room for additional teacher parking or staff parking, and they could be directed to use that parking space. It wouldn't be like parent parking, except maybe during events. We did do some checking with the school. The septic system is under this baseball field that's at the south end of the property, so any construction work here wouldn't affect the septic system for the school. And I heard, but I'm not 100% sure, Mr. Bennett may know, I heard that the kindergarten playground might be reconfigured, and so maybe this could be combined with that?
Yeah, that's all planned so that they can be, this existing structure that
Okay, so I mean, there's an opportunity there to sort of work cooperatively while there's some playground reconfiguration happening. Under our second alternative.
Second one, can I ask
Yes,
another
ma'am.
question about the first one?
Yes.
So it looks like on this paper copy that the thicker lines end right adjacent to the ball field.
Yes.
So is that where the cars would stop?
Would queue, yes.
So you would say 20 to 25 cars would fit between Palmer Meadow Road and the end of that thick line?
Correct.
The children only leave the building over by the gymnasium, which is the last exit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so that there will handle 20 to 25 cars?
Yeah, it's just over 450 linear feet, so it's hard.
Could they continue towards the back of the school or no?
So I would like to get more input from the school on this. Principal Pluta was extremely busy towards the end of the year, and we had a hard time connecting on this. What I saw when I was out there observing the situation is that the children play on the playground until fairly late in the afternoon, and so I'm afraid that having cars queued beyond where we've got marked with the darker line would create a conflict, because that is definitely playground space for the children. They do like foursquare and basketball on the paved area, and so I think realistically, until it's dismissal time and the kids are controlled in the gym, you wouldn't want to see cars queuing any further along there. But yeah, I mean, the goal would be to get as many kids off the, as many cars off Palmer Meadow Road as possible.
So, can you point to this, what area of this map here do the kids actually load and unload? Is it up here? The cars sit down here?
Yeah, they load and unload where the gray roof is.
Where the gray roof, okay, way
Yes.
down there. Okay, so right where they're queuing, or at the beginning of that then? Right here, down here?
Yeah, my understanding is that gray roofed area, the upper right corner is the gymnasium.
This is where they queue, okay.
You want to scroll up one?
So are they gonna queue all the way through here, or just
No.
up to here?
Yeah.
There's, on the hard copy that I provided
No,
you,
go to
there's
the
this
next
full
one.
orange line,
Yes.
that would be the queue zone.
Okay, and then all of a sudden, this will be signals
it's
them to
not
go,
there.
and then they all travel over here and
Yeah,
pick
right
up.
now, there's a gate that restricts people from getting onto the property, so we're suggesting we move that gate back to the top of the queue zone.
Well, the biggest, I mean, there's a lot of traffic and it backs up a lot. Once it opens up and goes, it's over very quickly. Another big safety issue is the number of people that still park on Gun Road. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. People that, I know they're supposed to pick up their children by coming in the current system.
Right.
But there's still a fair number of people that.
Yeah, we did talk with the principal about what could be done there if they could direct the staff and teachers to park, or administrators to park along Gun Road Extension. When I was there, it seemed like most of the staff and administrators were parking in the front parking area in the circle, and that I don't think is ideal. That should probably be reserved for parents as they're coming and going. My understanding is that the pre-K program has 2 staggered sessions, and so pretty much all day long pre-K kids are being dropped off and picked up every hour or so. It's a staggered program. Does anybody have pre-K kids? Do you know?
Well, I know that.
I don't think I brought that particular schedule item with me.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. They have the teachers park in that front because when they have parents park there, they're pulling out when the school buses have their red lights flashing. And they've had many kids that have snuck through to try to get over, and it's been dangerous in there, and that's why they have all the teachers parked there.
I see. So under our second alternative, our suggestion is still to separate the buses and the passenger vehicles, but send the buses around the back of the school and send the, I'm sorry, yeah, we don't have that one. So you do have it in your paper packet if you just flip over the page.
Right there, is that the one you're talking about?
Well, that will work, but just imagine that the yellow line is now the red line. So just reverse the lines because it's just directionally. Physically, it's the same configuration. It's just in alternative one, we're sending the passenger vehicles the way they're going now, which is around the back of the school for pickup. And in alternative two, we're saying send the buses around the back of the school and have bus pickup go out the back and have passenger pickup and parent parking in the front. So again, keep the two separated, and that addresses the issue.
How would that work then for Hampshire Regional buses that drop off at North School an hour early? They're going to run into parents that are now parked in the front when there's buses that are going to be, that would normally, because at 2:30, the buses can't go behind the school because there's kids out there playing. They would normally come in and follow that yellow line right now, drop kids off, and then they have, well, every Hampshire Regional bus comes and drops kids off for the Smith Voc. Then a Smith Voc bus comes, picks kids up, and goes off. So that would have to be looked at. But Smith Voc is changing their hours. So
I mean, personally, I like putting the cars in the back of the school and putting that new driveway in there, and that takes them off of Palmer Meadow Road. What I would like to do with this, I don't know how the board feels, but I'd like to now submit this to the school committee. I'd like the school committee to chime in on this as to how they feel. And I also want to underline something. This is still going to cost money to happen. So we need to know from the school department if there's some type of funding that can help offset this. We can certainly take and use highway personnel to do some of it, but there's still going to be costs involved. And you have an estimate in these reports as to what this would cost. But I think that would be the fairest approach to it now.
Do you want me to run through those costs real briefly?
You can, just quick summary, but yeah.
Sure. So basically, the cost for the first alternative, which would include the additional parking spaces and the driveway, you can leave it there if you want, would be a new driveway entrance, the curbing associated with that entrance, asphalt paving for the driveway and the parking area, relocating the gate, and that would be about $93,000, and that's based on the Mass DOT bid prices for all the materials and labor. Okay, that gives you a baseline for if you were going to put that out to bid. And then if we were going to send the buses around back, we'd want to have a little heavier duty pavement. So it's essentially the same scope of work, but we'd have a little heavier pavement construction. So that adds about another $15,000. So it's $108,000 based on the Mass DOT pricing. Okay.
How many buses operate for the school?
You know, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I would say the day I was out there, between the vocational school buses coming a little bit earlier, and some of them were on like a double loop. They came in, they dropped kids off, and then they came back around to pick kids up. 15 maybe?
It's 10 to 12.
So say,
Doesn't include the Smith and the Hampshire Regional ones, right?
That's just for Norris.
Yeah, I was out there from like 2 p.m. one day to 3:30. So I was there long before I expected to see anybody, and you know, there were parents already queued up on the road, and then the regional school buses started coming and dropping kids off, and then there's a big influx for about 20 minutes. And then it sort of peters out. It's still people coming and going with after-school activities and things of that nature. But the big rush is probably 20 minutes. But I would say there's like a 30-minute build-up to it.
Yeah. Tammy, do you know why they come an hour before? Is it just that they want to get their child first and get out, and rather, so they're willing to wait in
Whether
line?
it's dentist appointments, gymnastics, dance, baseball, sports commitments, there's people there at 2:30 when Hampshire Regional parents are trying to pull in to pick up spin vote kids.
So the house, the first house there with the little rectangular in that complex there, they must get blocked in all the time.
Yes. And their front yard is beautiful, except for where the cars are pulled on the curb.
The highway department and the police chief have put up quite a bit of directional signage indicating no parking from here to corner to try and create zones of no parking. And between the enforcement of the police department and the signage from the highway department, there seem to be fewer complaints. And I would say the good news is there have not been any accidents that have been reported to the fire chiefs, or the police chief, I'm sorry, I keep saying the fire chief. The only other thing we had in our memo that we wanted to put forward to was that the representatives from the school that are directing traffic, the day I was out there, nobody was wearing any safety gear. Mass Public Health Department does have guidelines for crossing guards and people that are acting in a crossing guard function, and we would encourage that that be incorporated into your policies for people that are going to be directing any traffic associated with the school. And that is the typical gear that you see, the high visibility vests and, you know, a stop paddle, things of that nature, just so that it's very obvious to drivers that they're out there.
I agree, Charlie. I think we should send it to the school committee because they're the ones that really need to weigh in. We can't push anything on
No,
them.
I don't want to push it. I wanted a report. I think we have that report. Now we need the school committee to basically digest this and come back and tell us what they think is workable. And then we have to start finding funding.
We just transferred 35,000 into the school, and they're going to take that money and put it back into one of their funds. Would that be a pot that we might be able to retain?
I would talk to the town accountant over that.
Yeah.
Instead of me trying to speculate.
Yeah.
Now, I would like, and I don't see it happening, but I would like to get this started this summer. You know, even if it means that we take the loam out and gravel it so that it's at least a dirt driveway if we have to change this thing, and then look for funding to put the asphalt down and everything else in the winter or fall.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Somebody mentioned that not only on Palmer Meadow Road, but they also line up on Gun Road as well. So when you establish this procedure, are we going to be doubling the cars? So even though you're capturing most of the cars off Palmer Meadow Road, are you going to have the ones that were on Gun coming over, so you're still going to be back to the post office?
That's why I asked whether or not more cars can be accommodated
Right,
back
if
to
we
the school.
change our policy and the Gun Road people now come over to go through this procedure, is that going to double the cars on that end? That's all I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the reason we presented alternative 2, where it would require the buses to go around back, we would also incorporate into that directing staff and administration to park on Gun Road Extension and in the new parking off the driveway to sort of, you know, those cars stay in place. They don't need to come and go, which would free up that front parking area, which has something like 30 spaces in it. And then there's also queue capacity in the driveway. I mean, the school has had a long history and it's had many additions, but I don't think that the site configuration has ever been reworked based on the plans that I was able to review. So, you know, that is the benefit. And I think, you know, the school committee, understanding more the functionality of the school, could certainly give us some feedback on that to help a decision be made.
One more thing, it would be nice to know if you look at putting the school buses behind the school and we got roughly 12 buses, would they be able to queue off the road or would they have to be on the road as well? I don't know how that would fit in there. That's all. I'm just, in that scenario, I'd like to see that.
Right.
You told us how many cars can fit there, but how many buses could if we go that route?
Yeah, let's see, so Yeah, they're about 50 feet long, so they need about 60 feet of queue space. So 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have half the buses would be on Palmer Meadow Road if that was.
Yeah, I didn't find that there were 10 buses all at once, though, because right now the buses are queuing in that circle. And, I didn't count that, so that's worth looking at.
Maybe the school committee could help with that.
I wonder if this also saves schools money too. I mean, this is all, the whole purpose of this is to keep people safe.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other questions? Okay, well, we appreciate the opportunity to assist you on this, and
Can you send me an updated,
yes, I will send you what you have here in PDF form.
please?
Okay. And I can give a copy to Mr. Bennett. I have an extra copy if you know. Okay, sure.
I take it the press wants a copy. Well, why don't you just snag mine, because she's going to send me a PDF, okay?
Give her the whole thing.
Okay,
I
thank you
just
very
did.
much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, police and fire chief job descriptions. At this point, why don't we just table that to the next meeting?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, that work for you, Rainey? Police and fire chief's job descriptions will table to the next meeting.
Sure.
All right. Have I missed anything on the agenda? I know I'm waiting on open time, but
Can you just, Zelda needs to know, what did we decide at Conant Park with the cable access?
Oh, I'm going to follow up with Kathy at the ECAD.
Sense?
Yeah.
Follow up.
anything else? Open time for the public?
Oh, I have something else after, I forgot, Charlie, but after she's done.
Okay.
Tammy Valunas, 298 College Highway. Based on a follow-up of the question that I had asked you guys at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, if there was a process for removing or getting someone out of a position that they were elected in. There is. There's a Chapter 91, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in the year of 1995. There is an act providing for recall elections in the town of Southampton. 100 signatures has to be picked up first before the town clerk can actually get going on the real paperwork, and then that real paperwork will require 25% of our voters, which is about 900 signatures. So right now, there are several of us that have sheets going around getting signatures to get that first 100, and then we'll let Janine get the next section going for us.
So this is actually happening?
Yes, this is happening.
Okay. The next set of signatures is at a vote rather than a petition, right?
The next set is to, the 900 signatures is to tell that, then show that you have enough people that do not want that person in that position.
Okay.
And then it would have to be a ballot voting.
Right.
Who would take over.
Yeah,
or
we'd
who-
have to clear an election.
Yes,
Yeah, but we need the 900 signatures. that are
900
certified.
signatures first.
Right.
100 and then 900.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of the 900, the first 100 will count.
Would sound, yes, they would be able to count them. So I just wanted to let you know that there
Well,
are
thank you.
people that are working on it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Charlie, I don't know where this would fall in. This is from the Council on Aging. It's the contract that they signed and they need you to sign. It's due the 1st of July, and their board approved it, and I believe it's been signed by them, by Nilda Cohen. Are you familiar with this? This was
Yes,
in the packet.
I reviewed it today. It was sent to us late this afternoon.
Okay.
So did the board approve it? I thought the board meeting was tomorrow.
The board meeting isn't until the 29th,
Right.
but they were asking us to review it, but We just got it late today. I had a couple of questions about it. I don't know if there's anybody that can answer them, so I had a couple of questions about the contract, so I'm not sure we're able to address it tonight.
Okay, I'm just saying it was in the packet and it was not on the schedule, so I'm just...
It's not on the schedule. I haven't seen it. I saw it came in the email, but it was like it just came in the email. And to be
There's-
quite candid, I was focused on Cook Road.
Yeah, I want me to read what Nilda sent?
Sure.
Let me just see here. Actually, this is to the Board of Selectmen from Velda. Nilda just came by with these two documents, says she needs to be signed tonight, since they are due on July 1st, 2017. She has discussed with Charlie and Jim. A scan of the contract is in the packet, is what's said here. And then the following is from Nilda. This is the annual renewal of the Franklin Regional Transit Authority contract for the van, and all the condition requirements are unchanged with the exception of our annual award amount. The amount of this has been increased from $25,000 to $31,000, which is excellent news. I request that the Board of Selectmen sign the signature page of each of the two contracts. Two signed copies should be returned to Shannon, the Council on Aging, on Wednesday, so they can be sent in time to meet July 1st deadline. So,
Yeah, so I had two questions about that. One is that the contract specifies that the total budget doesn't exceed 30,000. So that one said 31. So I had a question about what that difference is. And the other question I had is the contract says that all van drivers need to be quarried each June, and I don't know if that's happened, so I wanted assurance that that's happened before it's signed.
okay.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I'm reading the email from her, it says, needs to be signed by us, meaning the COA, and then the Board of Selectmen.
And the COA has signed it.
How did they sign it without having a meeting?
There's a signature on it right here.
Well, Shannon and Nilda signed it.
So does that count as the COA board? Is that,
I don't know, I went to the last board meeting, and it wasn't discussed, but I did leave a little bit early to go to
So if
work.
you look at it right here. Let's see that.
looks like Nilda's signing it as the board chair. And they
Is
won't-
Nilda's not the chair, is she?
I thought Therese Mackey was the chair.
Oh, she's saying board chair.
Didn't Therese introduce herself at a meeting
Yeah.
not long ago as the board chair?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will, it says here, I will get email confirmation as chair to sign. Maybe, well, do you know if she got elected as the chair?
Like I said, all I knew was that Therese Mackey came in and introduced herself as the new COA board chair when many of the seniors were coming here concerned this spring about...
Right, I remember that, yeah. I'm just wondering if something's changed.
Are you going to be around next week?
Me?
Yeah.
Monday.
I'm not going to be around. What I was thinking is, let Rainey follow up on this, and if she's satisfied with it, then the vice chair of this board could sign this.
Okay. It looks like it's got to supposedly be there by July 1. It's effective July 1.
Do we have a chance of losing the funding if we
No.
don't meet that deadline?
That's the question.
When is Saturday?
Correct.
Right, so
Right,
it has to
but-
be signed by Friday. Their board meeting is on the 29th. If Nilda and Shannon's already signed it, I'm not sure that it has to be signed by everyone or discussed at a meeting. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Let me see, there is a place for the Board of Selectmen to sign on here now, that's,
Yeah, there is. It's one signature and title.
yeah, one signature
And
and title.
you could authorize John to sign this as vice chair.
But it'd have to be signed this week, not next week, Charlie.
Right.
The first is Saturday.
I understand that.
What time is the board meeting Thursday, do you know?
Not here, so.
I'm not sure. I'm not going to be able to go to this one because I have to work, but I think it might be 10:30.
In the morning? Yeah.
So,
I'll say if in the evening, I'd go and just, if I had the authority to sign it, you know?
So could we, you're not going to be around either. Just wondering if we can, if Rainey gets an answer that satisfies your two questions. Is it possible to sign this week?
Yeah,
Does it have to be the chair or the vice chair? Could we, any one person here sign?
anyone could sign it.
Well,
All
if
you
it's-
have to
I will
do-
be around on I'll be around through Friday.
it
Well,
does
if
say
yeah.
Board of Selectmen chair on the actual contract.
I could be chair for a day.
But I could stand in for this.
Tim says, I don't know how
The board meeting.
literal it is.
Their board meeting is June 29th, which is Thursday, so we still have Thursday evening and Friday to sign
I'm
it.
leaving Friday morning.
Yeah, but I'm here Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
As long as we do it before July 1, and if I have approval as the vice chair to sign it, that's all we need. But you got some questions, and I want to make sure that the board approves it, the COA board.
Would I entertain a motion that the board authorize a representative of the board to sign this if the questions Rainey has are satisfied?
And if the COA board approves it?
Yeah.
Well, if that board approves it on Thursday.
Right. Do I hear a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Does anybody else have any other questions about the contract? 'Cause you haven't even read it.
I haven't read it. I mean, it's like, you hand it to me and say, here, and I'm like, okay, I got
Read
Kurt
it.
Beaujolais at my front door about Cook Road. I don't have time to read this.
So we all have a chance to read it prior to Thursday's meeting, so we could say if the board is satisfied, so if I have questions on Thursday and they're satisfactory to me as well, I would say sign it.
And if we have concerns, we'll direct them to Rainey, and Rainey can track it
And
down.
I'll send an email to Nilda and ask the questions.
So was that a second? You got a second on that? I seconded it.
Yeah.
We didn't vote yet, though.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let me say, this business of handing the select board something before the select board meeting, especially contracts, is not a workable approach.
I did mention at that meeting too that the select board was looking for a nomination from the COA board. And at the meeting and at our meeting today was somebody who was interested in being on the COA board. So I think that it's reasonable, since we don't have a meeting scheduled after July 11th until August, not that there won't be one scheduled. I think it's reasonable that we appoint someone to the board. We haven't had a senior center director since October of last year, and I think that we had a lot of seniors coming to talk to us and saying they're not satisfied with the movement, and I think that that is where we can have some authority, and I think it's reasonable to put a nomination forward by July 11th.
So do we want to put it on our agenda that we will nominate somebody for the COA board of directors?
We will appoint somebody.
Appoint somebody?
Yep.
And if the COA wants to bring forward some names, we'll be glad to listen to it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Charlie, and one more thing here.
You want to make that motion and everything?
Oh, sure.
You want to make that motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we nominate a COA board member on July 11th, and with recommendations from the COA board.
But if not, then we will,
Will be appointed.
okay, I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Charlie, she doesn't here need to know, and you're going to go over the articles, the fall town meeting,
No,
all the things that are on it yet?
no.
So we're going to pass it then?
Yeah, basically, that's a benchmark for us. If you notice, one of the benchmarks on here, when we were talking about the school, is article for funding to relocate the sidewalk on Gun Road Extension adjacent to the North School, because part of what you saw with the traffic study, one of the things I saw out there was the fact that you couldn't back a car out of there easily.
It's so close to the road.
Right, but there's enough land to move that sidewalk in 5 to 10 feet and pull that parking area in 5 to 10 feet, and that'll eliminate the blindness of seeing when you pull out with a bus or a car or anything else. But Tammy's gonna tell me I'm wrong again.
You are, Tammy Williams, 298 198 College Highway. You are
Wherever I am.
100% correct on that. The other thing is, when they have a school event, it's not just the parking they have there taken up, it's people now have grown accustomed of, driving towards, down Pomeroy Meadow towards College Highway and just, there's empty grass there on the sidewalk, and zoom right in. And so they were parking, right in front of the school, over the front sidewalks and next to the telephone poles and the wires there. So you may get rid of 2 or 3 spots coming out of there. There's still going to be people parking there.
Well, the idea of this on Gun Road was to make it safer
Yeah.
and open up the area a little bit more.
Unless you actually have a wall blocking it, there's, somebody's
You know
still
what
gonna
I
park
like? I like those little concrete bullets that they used to put around the churches.
Yeah,
They
that
do
works.
enough damage that nobody goes over them a second time.
I like a police officer, that seems to.
Or something artistic for the elementary school.
Anyways, back to a serious note. We obviously have a parking issue and a traffic issue around that school. We are trying to get together with this. I think we're moving ahead forward. I think things are starting to come together, but it will take us some time to get to this. We had a very interesting select board meeting this Saturday with the secretary, Jim Ash.
Jay Ash.
From, what's the name of that, Housing
Secretary of
and Urban Development. And the discussion was mostly focused around the East Street Bridge and seeing if the town was eligible for a Mass Works grant to replace that bridge. We were encouraged to apply for that grant. So we are going to be pushing our engineers to put together the engineering study on that. This is a no-promise thing, but we are looking towards that. In another month, we are going to be meeting with Pioneer Valley Planning to discuss funding from federal state sources for Phase 1 of East Street, which is College Highway to the bridge or just past the bridge to Strong Road. So just because we're not really seeing anything in the paper or hearing anything, there is a lot of background lobbying going on to try to fund this, to make it happen. Rainey, I don't know what you were
I
there.
just also wanted to credit Peter Kokot, who was also there, who has been very instrumental in.
Yes.
He's going to be the key to get this passed.
Peter Kokot's the one pushing this for us.
And what was the value? Was it like $1 million?
$2 million.
2 million? 2 million?
Yeah, you're looking at $1 million to $2 million for the bridge and $2 to $3 million for the roadway.
But isn't Phase 1 the bridge?
There actually has never been an established Phase 1. The problem that's happened with this project is Phase 1 and 2 are roadways. The bridge was always ignored because the bridge comes out of a different pot of money. And the problem is the bridge is the bottleneck. If we were to redo those roads, we're going to have a funnel effect at that bridge. So we need to do the bridge as well.
If we can do one thing first, the bridge would be the one to do first.
Yeah.
But the money for this works would be for the bridge.
For the bridge. And we also did this discussion about renovating the old town hall into a police station with them too. Not that that was something we were going to lobby for this year, because obviously we only could pick a couple of projects, but that was discussed too. So just a little update on that. June 29th is the town election for the override question for the school. Please vote in the positive. This is necessary. It's going to have a long-term impact not only on the school, but on the town in general. With that, the Board of Selectmen's next meeting is July 11th. And I hope everybody has a good 4th of July. Call the meeting to be adjourned.
So move.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Guys, have a good evening.